There are moments in life when a message feels different, when a few words seem to touch a place inside your heart that you have been trying to understand for a long time. Maybe you clicked on this video because something has been weighing on your mind. Maybe there is someone you still think about when the world becomes quiet. Someone whose absence feels louder than their presence ever was. Someone you once shared dreams, laughter, memories, and moments with, but now there is distance, silence, or unanswered questions between you. And maybe the hardest part is not knowing what that silence means. You may have wondered, did they stop caring? Did I imagine the connection? Was everything we shared truly meaningful? Why does my heart still feel attached to a person who is no longer standing beside me? If you have ever felt this way, this message is for you. Not because someone else's thoughts can be known, not because the future can be predicted, but because sometimes a relationship leaves behind emotions that deserve to be understood. Sometimes a connection changes the way we see ourselves, the way we love, and the way we grow. The title of this message carries a feeling many people recognize, the feeling of someone reaching an emotional breaking point, feeling overwhelmed or struggling with emotions they have not been able to express. But what if the deeper meaning is not only about another person? What if this moment is also inviting you to look at something within yourself? Because sometimes when someone says, "I can't do this anymore," it is not always the end of a story. Sometimes it represents a moment where old patterns, old fears, and old pain can no longer continue the same way. There are moments when emotions become impossible to ignore. Maybe someone in your life has been distant. Maybe conversations became shorter. Maybe the warmth you once felt has been replaced by uncertainty. And in those moments, the mind searches for answers while the heart searches for comfort. But there is something deeper about this experience that many people never realize. Sometimes the most important message hidden inside a difficult emotional season is not about chasing someone, proving your worth, or trying to control an outcome. Sometimes it is about discovering the strength that has been quietly growing inside you all along. The memories you carry, the love you gave, the lessons you learned, and even the pain you survived have all shaped the person you are becoming. And before we talk about what this emotional moment may be teaching you, there is something important you need to understand. Because the biggest transformation often begins in the place where you feel the most uncertain. Because the biggest transformation often begins in the place where you feel the most uncertain. When your heart is searching for answers, silence can feel incredibly heavy. You may find yourself replaying old conversations, remembering small details, and wondering if there was something you could have done differently. A simple song can bring back a memory. A familiar place can remind you of a moment you thought you had moved beyond. A random thought in the middle of the day can suddenly bring someone back into your mind. And you may ask yourself, why do I still feel this way? Why does this connection still matter to me? Why is it so difficult to simply let go and move forward? These questions are not signs of weakness. They are signs that something meaningful happened in your life. Human beings are deeply affected by the connections they create. The people we love, the experiences we share, and the emotions we invest can leave lasting impressions on our hearts. But there is a difference between honoring a connection and losing yourself inside it. Sometimes when we miss someone, our mind begins creating a story around the silence. We imagine what they might be thinking. We search for hidden meanings. We look for signs that explain why things changed. And while reflection can help us understand our emotions, there comes a moment when we must also return our attention to ourselves. Because your heart deserves peace too. Maybe the person you are thinking about is also going through their own struggles, their own fears, or their own moments of reflection. Every person carries emotions that others cannot always see. But the only journey you can truly understand and transform is your own. And this is where everything begins to change. Instead of asking only, why did this happen to me? You begin asking different questions. What is this experience teaching me? What have I learned about the way I love? What parts of myself have I discovered through this journey? How can I become stronger while still keeping my heart open? These questions create a different kind of healing. Healing does not mean pretending you never cared. It does not mean erasing memories or acting as if the connection never mattered. Healing means allowing yourself to grow from what you experienced. It means understanding that love is not only about being chosen by someone else. Love is also about choosing yourself during moments when life feels uncertain. There may have been times when you felt forgotten, rejected, or invisible. There may have been moments when you questioned your value because someone's actions did not match your hopes. But another person's distance does not define your worth. Your value was never created by someone staying. Your beauty was never created by someone recognizing it. Your strength was never created by someone approving of it. It has always existed within you. Sometimes the hardest emotional moments reveal parts of ourselves we never knew were there. They show us our patience. They reveal our ability to survive difficult seasons. They teach us what kind of love feels healthy, respectful, and peaceful. And perhaps this is the message hidden beneath the pain. Not that you should wait endlessly for someone else to change. Not that you should ignore your own needs while hoping for a different outcome. But that this experience may be inviting you to become the strongest, most confident, and most emotionally aware version of yourself. Because before any relationship can bring lasting happiness, there is a relationship that needs attention first. The relationship you have with yourself. And there is a powerful realization about this journey that many people only discover after they have walked through uncertainty. The relationship you have with yourself. And there is a powerful realization about this journey that many people only discover after they have walked through uncertainty. The moments that challenge your heart often become the moments that introduce you to your own strength. When everything feels unclear, you are given an opportunity to look deeper than the surface emotions. Beyond the sadness, beyond the questions, beyond the longing, there is a part of you that is learning, adapting, and becoming stronger. Maybe this experience has shown you things you never noticed before. Maybe you discovered how deeply you can care. Maybe you realized how much patience, forgiveness, and compassion you are capable of giving. Maybe you learned that love is not only about holding on to someone. Sometimes love also teaches you how to release fear, build confidence, and create peace within yourself. Because a healthy heart is not one that never feels pain. A healthy heart is one that feels deeply but still chooses growth. There is a difference between missing someone and abandoning yourself. There is a difference between hoping for connection and depending on someone else to complete you. The strongest version of you is the one who can say, I can appreciate what this person meant to me, but I can also honor who I am becoming. That realization can change everything. For many people, emotional pain becomes a doorway to self-discovery. They begin noticing patterns they never questioned before. They begin understanding their own needs, their boundaries, their dreams, and the kind of love they truly deserve. Maybe you spent a long time trying to understand someone else. Maybe you searched for reasons behind their actions. Maybe you wondered what you could have done differently. But now perhaps it is time to ask something even more important. Am I giving myself the same love and understanding that I have been giving to someone else? Sometimes we are so focused on being chosen that we forget we also have the power to choose. Choose peace. Choose respect. Choose emotional balance. Choose a life where your happiness is not controlled by someone else's decisions. And this does not mean your feelings disappear overnight. It does not mean memories suddenly lose their meaning. It simply means you stop allowing uncertainty to take away the beautiful parts of who you are. Sometimes the heart needs time to understand what the mind already knows. You can still care. You can still remember. You can still appreciate the moments that shaped you. But you can also move forward. Growth does not erase your past. It transforms the way you carry it. Imagine yourself months from now looking back at this chapter of your life. Imagine realizing that the moments you thought were breaking, you were actually teaching you how to stand stronger. Imagine discovering that the love you were searching for outside of yourself was also waiting to be created within you. Because when you build a strong relationship with yourself, you no longer approach love from a place of fear. You approach it from confidence. You no longer say, "I need someone to make me feel complete." You begin saying, "I am already whole, and I welcome a connection that adds to the peace I have created." And this is where emotional transformation truly begins. But there is another important step in this journey: learning how to rebuild your confidence. Protect your peace and release the fear that has been holding your heart back. Learning how to rebuild your confidence. Protect your peace and release the fear that has been holding your heart back. Because after emotional uncertainty, one of the hardest things to rebuild is trust. Not only trust in another person, but trust in yourself. Trust that you can handle difficult moments. Trust that you can survive disappointment. Trust that your future can still hold beautiful possibilities, even when today feels unclear. Sometimes after experiencing distance or heartbreak, we begin to question ourselves. Was I not enough? Did I care too much? Should I have been different? Did I make mistakes that cannot be forgiven? But these questions often come from a place of pain, not truth. Every relationship teaches us something. Some connections teach us about love. Some teach us about patience. Some teach us about boundaries. And some teach us the importance of never abandoning ourselves while trying to hold on to someone else. The lesson is not always about who stayed or who left. Sometimes the greatest lesson is discovering who you become through the experience. There is a quiet strength that appears when you stop fighting for answers you cannot control and start creating peace you can. You begin waking up differently. You begin understanding that your happiness is not something another person gives you permission to have. You start enjoying your own company again. You start finding joy in simple moments. You start remembering the dreams, passions, and parts of yourself that may have been placed on hold while you were focused on someone else. And slowly, something beautiful happens. You begin returning to yourself. This does not mean your heart becomes cold. It does not mean you stop believing in love. It means your love becomes wiser. You begin understanding that a meaningful connection should not require you to constantly question your value. A relationship built on emotional maturity creates space for honesty, respect, understanding, and growth. And if someone is meant to be a meaningful part of your life, that connection should meet you where there is mutual care, communication, and willingness to grow. But regardless of what happens outside of you, there is something you can always protect: your inner peace. Because peace is powerful. Peace allows you to make decisions from clarity instead of fear. Peace allows you to remember beautiful moments without becoming trapped in the past. Peace allows you to love someone while still loving yourself. Sometimes the heart holds on because it is afraid that letting go means losing something precious. But releasing fear does not mean losing love. Sometimes releasing fear means finally making room for healthier love, deeper understanding, and a stronger version of yourself. And maybe this emotional moment you are experiencing is not asking you to chase, prove, or beg. Maybe it is asking you to listen. Listen to what your heart has learned. Listen to what your experiences have revealed. Listen to the person you are becoming. Because the person you are becoming is someone who knows their worth. Someone who understands that love should feel like a safe place, not a constant battle. Someone who knows that being valued begins with valuing yourself. And once you reach that place, something changes inside you. The fear becomes quieter. The confusion begins to fade. And the love you carry becomes something peaceful instead of painful. But there is still one final realization that brings this entire emotional journey together. But there is still one final realization that brings this entire emotional journey together. The strongest connection you will ever build is the relationship you create with yourself. Because every other relationship in your life is influenced by the way you see yourself, the way you treat yourself, and the love you believe you deserve. When you truly understand your own worth, you stop searching for someone else to prove that you matter. You stop measuring your value by someone's attention. You stop allowing someone's silence to define your confidence. You stop believing that another person's choices have the power to decide your happiness. Instead, you begin standing firmly in who you are. You begin recognizing that your heart has always carried something powerful. The ability to love, to forgive, to grow, and to begin again. Maybe this journey started with a question about someone else. Maybe you wanted to understand what they were feeling. Maybe you wanted to know if the connection still mattered. Maybe you hoped for clarity about a chapter that felt unfinished. But perhaps the most meaningful answer was never only about another person. Perhaps it was about discovering yourself. The person you are becoming after everything you have experienced. The person who has learned that love is not about losing yourself in another human being. The person who understands that a beautiful connection is not built from fear of being abandoned. It is built from two people who choose each other while also respecting themselves. And this realization may be more important than it first appears. Because when you heal the parts of yourself that were hurt, you no longer approach love with desperation. You approach it with wisdom. You no longer ask, "Will someone finally choose me?" You begin saying, "I choose myself and I welcome the kind of love that recognizes my value." That is a powerful transformation. The heart that once felt broken begins to understand that it was not losing everything. It was learning. It was growing. It was becoming stronger. Every tear, every unanswered question, every moment of uncertainty carried a lesson about your own strength. And maybe someday you will look back at this chapter and realize something surprising. The moment you thought was only about losing a connection was also the moment you found a deeper connection with yourself. Sometimes the heart understands before the mind does. Sometimes life removes the noise so you can finally hear your own voice. The voice that says, "I deserve respect. I deserve peace. I deserve love that feels safe and genuine. I deserve a relationship where I do not have to lose myself to be loved." Never forget that, because your worth does not increase when someone chooses you, and it does not decrease when someone walks away. Your worth has always been there. The love you give to others is beautiful. But the love you create within yourself is the foundation that allows every other love to become healthier and stronger. And now, as you continue this journey, remember one final truth. Your heart is not defined by one difficult moment. Your story is not ending because something became uncertain. There is still growth ahead. There is still healing ahead. There is still hope ahead. And the person you are becoming may be more powerful, more peaceful, and more confident than the person who first began this journey. And the person you are becoming may be more powerful, more peaceful, and more confident than the person who first began this journey. Because every chapter of life has a purpose. Some chapters bring happiness. Some chapters bring lessons. Some chapters challenge us to discover strength we never knew we had. But no chapter has the power to define your entire story. Your story is still unfolding. The uncertainty you feel today will not always feel this heavy. The questions that keep you awake at night will not always have the same power over your heart. With time, reflection, and self-love, you can begin to see this experience not only as a moment of pain, but as a moment of transformation. Maybe someone enters your life and changes you. Maybe someone leaves your life and changes you. But the most important relationship you will ever continue building is the one you have with yourself. Protect your peace. Honor your feelings. Allow yourself to remember the beautiful moments. But also allow yourself to move toward the future with hope. You do not need to have every answer today. You do not need to know exactly how everything will unfold. You only need to remember that you are growing through this experience. Your worth is not defined by someone else's actions. Your value is not measured by whether someone stays, returns, understands, or chooses you. You are valuable because of who you are. The love you carry, the kindness you share, and the strength you continue to build. The love you seek begins with the love you create within yourself. And when you begin loving yourself with patience and compassion, you create space for healthier connections, deeper understanding, and a more peaceful future. If this message resonated with you, share in the comments. I choose growth, healing, and hope. Let those words be a reminder of the direction you are choosing for yourself. Not fear, not confusion, not endless waiting, but growth, healing, hope. Thank you for spending these moments with this message. If you found comfort, reflection, or encouragement here, consider subscribing for more emotional stories and reminders designed to support your journey. Remember, sometimes the most meaningful changes begin quietly. Sometimes the hardest moments reveal the strongest parts of who we are. And sometimes the greatest love story you will ever experience begins with the moment you finally choose yourself.